Okay, right. Welcome everyone to the Tutors Association Spotlight session on tutorcheck.co.uk, which is a new initiative by TTA to provide a daily DBS checking service for free for all members. So this is for both individual tutors and also for corporate members. Corporate members can use this to check their tutors' DBS status, and individual tutors can use it to upload their DBS status and allow it to be shared with corporates so that the corporates can see what their DBS status is. So it's all about encouraging best practice. And as you probably know already, it is a TTA requirement that all of our members have a DBS check, which is at least less than a year old or on the update service. And it's that's mandatory. So everyone has to have that. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go through from an individual tutor's perspective, and then for everyone's benefit, I will go through what it looks like on the other side as well. So there's complete transparency as to what's going on, how it works, and that the individual tutors are in control of the process, because obviously the individual tutor needs to give their consent in order for this to work and for the process to be allowed to continue. If the individual tutor wishes to terminate at any point, obviously then the corporate may decide not to work with you anymore, because they will want to check that your DBS status is up to date, but that's in your hands if you're an individual tutor as well. So let's first of all show you what the Tutor Check website looks like. So the application, I'm going to share it here. So if you go to tutor-check.co.uk, this is what you should see. So it will be welcome to the Tutors Association's automated DBS check system, and it will give you a little bit of a background as to what our TTA's DBS policy is. This is obviously an abridged version. We have a more complete policy. And it will allow you to look up a member to check that they're compliant with our current policies or not. So I'm going to do this for me to show everyone that, how this works. So we can type in the name of a member. We can click go. And it says, John Nichols. This tutor is an active member of the Tutors Association in compliance with our checks and policies. The DBS certificate is either less than a year old or on the update service, and no new information has been added. That's all it will give us, because that's basically saying that the person complies with our policies. If they don't comply, just as they don't comply and we don't know, and I think I have a demonstration one here. So we've got a demo account for me, and if the person has not got enough information, this is what it will show up with. This person does not currently comply with our checks and policies for active members, maybe because their data is not in our system, they have a different kind of check, or because there's a relevant criminal record information on the DBS. But we don't say, obviously, we can't say what that information will be. It just says either we don't know if they comply or not, or they definitely comply. That's all it will give you. So this is a good way for you, if you're a member. You can not only can you show your DBS check to clients, you can obviously show clients Tutor Check, and it gives them independent verification that it is compliant with our current terms and conditions. And this will be updated every day, twice a day. It will run the checks against the data that's in the database and against the DBS update service as well. So this is the public-facing version of the TTA's DBS check system. I'm going to now log in as a member, so you can see what it looks like from the perspective of an individual tutor. And after that, we'll show you what it looks like from the perspective of a corporate. And whether you're an individual tutor or a corporate, you'll get the perspective of how it works, what the whole process is, and how you're in control for the whole of the process. So the public-facing part we've covered. That's quite straightforward. Any questions on the public-facing part? Or is it pretty easy?
Yeah.
Pretty easy. Good. Okay, now let's go to member login. So if you already a member of TTA, your information will be in Wild Apricot. If you then choose to sign up for an account and you use the same email address, okay, you can sign up for an account here. So if you've never logged in before, you'll need to do this before you can make use of this system. The system does have a link with Wild Apricot, but it won't automatically run any checks until you sign up for an account here. So we can show you what this would look like. Okay, this is where you would then enter your information. You'd put in your name, put in your email address. And if this email address is the same as the one you've used when you've registered with Wild Apricot, which is our membership software, it will pull across the data that is in the membership software. So if you've updated the membership software with your DBS details, and then when you register for this, it will pull that across. You then create yourself a new password. and you can choose whether you want to opt in or out of TTA communications, which is up to you. Okay, so creating an account is quite straightforward, and that's the first step. If you don't already have an account as a tutor, you put your details in here and you register. Okay, just a quick reminder on that point. Your email, if you use the same email as the one that's registered on Wild Apricot, it will pull across the data that's in Wild Apricot. If you use a different email, it obviously won't pull across any data. It will assume you're a different person. You'll have to enter the data yourself. Let's go back then, and let's have a look at what it looks like for the purposes of our individual tutors. I've just updated this, and maybe I've changed it. Let me just do this here, and that way it'll be quite straightforward. I did just update this email address a minute ago because it's not one that I use all the time for this, because we obviously just use it for. It's quite straightforward to check. I've already got the reset password link. Okay, I'm going to just change it now, and in one moment I will log in the correct password. Okay. So if I'm logging as an individual tutor, this is what I'll see. So it will come up and it will show me my current DBS status. And if I want to, I can see what those different status options are. But if I'm on the update service, which I am, then it will come up as blank, no new info if the DBS was blank in the first place, and no new information has been added since the DBS was obtained. There are different statuses, which we can have a look at in a minute. But basically, it will come up as unknown or no data if we don't have any information. And it will show us if there's anything new being added, so the DBS is up to date. And it will also tell us if the DBS is less than a year old or over a year old if they're not registered on the update service. So I can see this is a demo account, so it doesn't have a membership plan attached, but it would have the membership plan attached here and the membership status here as well, which would pull across from Wild Apricot. Okay. Now it also shows linked corporates that I'm connected to. And if I want to click on that here in the sidebar, I can see which corporates I'm linked to. So in this case, it's obviously just for demo purposes. There's two test links here. And if I decide for whatever reason I want to stop working with a corporate, I can terminate the link at any time. Okay, are you sure you get a chance to obviously confirm that you definitely want to do this? The corporate will be emailed if you click this. Obviously, they may then choose to say, well, if you don't share your DBS data, then obviously we won't be able to continue working with you. But if you do want to stop working with a corporate, then you can just do it in this way. Terminate the link, and now that corporate won't be able to see your DBS status anymore. They will get an email to say you've unlinked from that corporate, and they will see you on their previous tutors. So they will see a list of tutors that they've previously been linked with, but they won't see any further updates on DBS status, of course. I can also go into my tutor profile, and I can change things like my DBS reference number, my name, the DBS certificate date and date of birth, and I can change the display name, opt out of communications, and things like this. I cannot change the email address because this is basically the core ID for how the system knows who I am. So when you sign in, you should use the email address you intend to use on an ongoing basis. You won't be able to change that email address at a later date. Okay. If I want to look at past linked corporates, then I can look at the corporates I've been linked to in the past and when I broke the link. Okay. So that's what it looks like from an individual tutor perspective. It will also show me all the history of status changes if I would like to see that. So in this case, you can see it's checking it twice a day on most days, 22nd, 21st, 21st, 20th, 19th, 19th, and all the rest of it. It keeps coming up as blank, no new info. And you can see if there's any change on these statuses down here. Okay, any questions as to what it looks like from an individual tutor's perspective?
So this is when you join the daily DBS checks. I've just looked at my tutor profile and it looks completely different, if that makes sense. I can see my little cards and all kind of information.
So you've probably logged into Wild Apricot, is that right?
Yes, I think so.
Yes. So Wild Apricot is a system that doesn't have this functionality, so this is a separate system. You need to go to tutor-check.co.uk.
Oh,
So I'll send that link to you here.
yeah.
Okay. And then you'll have the opportunity to register and create an account in the Tutor Check system.
Okay,
if you use the same email that you've got in the Wild Apricot system, it will pull across the data that you've got in the Wild Apricot system as well.
Okay. Right.
So it does synchronize with Wild Apricot, but if you log into Wild Apricot doesn't have the ability to do this, which is why we built a separate system. Okay, I'm with you now.
Yeah.
Okay. So as an individual tutor, it's very straightforward for me to log in to check what my current DBS status is, to see if there's a problem. If there is a problem, obviously you can look at it and address it. You can either contact TTA if you feel like something is going wrong with the system, or if your DBS information is incorrect, you go to your tutor profile, you can correct it, and then the DBS checks should run as normal. If you want to terminate the link with corporates, obviously you can do that. Excuse me. Right, now let me log out and show you what it looks like from a corporate perspective as well. Okay, again, corporate perspective, this is where we've got a demo corporate account. Okay, so for all corporates, access to the DBS check system and the ability to check all of your tutors is free. There's no extra cost for this. You can access this if you are a paid up corporate member. So on the dashboard, it shows the corporate admin's DBS status. So this is the DBS status for the corporate admin here that you've logged in as. And it shows what corporates you're connected to. So if you owned more than one tuition company, or you're connected to more than one tuition company, the list of tuition companies will come up here. And it would also show the list of corporate members. Again, this is a demo account. We only have me, and we have me twice. But it shows you the full list of tutors here along with their DBS status. Okay. So when if you've got a corporate, you can invite new tutors to join you, and it's quite straightforward to do this. So tutors, if you want to work with a corporate, you would apply for them in the normal way. At some stage, the corporate would then be expected to ask for your consent to access your DBS details, and obviously they'd want to have your DBS number and your date of birth, your surname, and your DBS issue date in order to do that. You then go here, they can enter these information here, all of the details, and they have to click this button here to say they've got the consent in order to submit that. Okay, the corporates are not allowed to submit this without having the tutor's consent to do it, even if they've got the details. Obviously, normally they'd have the details because you've optionally provided them with that information. But you've got the right, if you're an individual member, you've got the right to withdraw that consent at any time in accordance with data protection rules. So you enter the details here, you enter the reference number, you tick this button, and you press send invite. Obviously, I need to fill in this information for it to work. Okay. Now, if you are a corporate and you want to invite someone who's going to help manage this process for you, you can invite a corporate administrator. Again, you fill in the same information, but if you invite a corporate administrator, they're going to have the same control over the corporate account that you do. So this is obviously only for people that are in your team. This is not for the tutors, because this person will have the ability to look at all of the information of all of your tutors, and obviously you need to have a contract in place for them to cover the confidentiality, which you would do with an employee ordinarily. If you're concerned about this, then don't invite anyone as a corporate administrator, and come and talk to us first, and we can explain to you a bit more about what you need to do. Okay. Now, if you're a corporate and you're sitting there saying, well, I've got 500 tutors, so don't want to do them one by one, that's absolutely fine. You can import tutors via a CSV. It's basically a spreadsheet. So there's a button here to download an example CSV, and there's a set of instructions up here. Okay. The instructions are quite straightforward. You need to put the details into the spreadsheet. So again, we'll need the surname in one of the columns. We'll need the date in one of the columns. The date needs to be in the right format, otherwise the computer's not going to understand it. And it gives you the format and the details here. Okay. So you need to make sure you follow this information. You then import the tutor CSV, and you do still need to make sure that you have consent for all of the tutors that you're importing. So obviously you need to make sure, if you are a corporate member, you would at some stage have checked with the tutors that they consent to provide you with the DBS information. so that you can check it. Okay, and that allows you to import as many individual tutors at a time as you like. I think it's got a limit of 99,999. But if you have more tutors than that, use more than one CSV. I don't think we have that problem very often. Okay, now as a corporate, you also might want to terminate the link for a tutor at some stage if you've got someone that you don't work with anymore. And again, you can just click here, terminate link, and it's quite obvious whether you want to confirm that you want to terminate it or you don't want to terminate it, and you go back. It's quite straightforward. It then gives you your own DBS status change history for your own corporate status. So this is for the administrator that you're currently logged in as, i.e. you. And then if you want to look at pending invitations, this shows you the people that you've invited to link to your corporate, but who have not yet accepted the invitation. Now, it will show you their DBS status, okay, unless they terminate the link, okay, because you've already got their consent from them and you've provided the information to us. So you still will be able to check their DBS status, okay, but it won't show you the they won't have logged in at this point. We've got a question from Jack.
Yeah, hey there, John. Yeah, just a quick question. With the consent side of things, if I mean, does it count as consent if you was to say, can you let me know if you don't consent to this? Otherwise, by this date, I'm going to upload everyone's data. Does that count as consent if you give them, like, you know, a month's notice, or does it need to be like a signed tick box kind of consent? What would be? I'm guessing the best part is just getting an actual signature and that kind of thing.
Well, but, yeah, you can get a signature. You can get them to affirm with a tick box. But I mean, if you're a corporate, you're going to need to ask them for their DBS data, aren't you?
Once if you've already got the DBS data on file, I talk about like the CSV upload.
So if you've already got the DBS, if you've already got the data on file, and the tutor's still working with you, you can say to them that you will not be able to work with us anymore past a certain date unless you consent. So you can say, and then in that case, you could say that if you continue to work with us, we will assume that you have consented. Okay,
that is classed as consent.
But if you've got their DBS data on file and they don't currently work with you, I would not recommend doing that. If they're not currently working with you, then there's nothing that they can do or not do that would indicate they've consented. Okay. So if I say to you, right, Jack, you're working for my tuition company ABC. If you're continuing to work for my company past the 31st of May, I'm going to assume you've consented to me using your DBS data that you've given me on file and run it through the tutor check system. Now, if you're keeping on working with me, then when you do your first tutorial after the 31st of May, then it becomes clear to me you've consented, because I've told you, if you do any more tutorials with me after the 31st of May, then you're agreeing to consent to this. In the same way, if you drive into a car park and it says, don't park here unless you agree to pay the parking fees, right?
Yeah, so I can just send an email out to all tutors, same email, after this day, we're going to be using the system. Let me know if you don't consent. And then,
but you have to make it clear that if you want to continue working with us after this date, then you could have to consent to this. So you can't, if you've got someone who you're not working with anymore, I wouldn't say this is enough, because they're not working with you anymore. Then they're not doing anything different after the 31st of May, are they?
Yeah,
they weren't working before, they weren't working after. That's not an indication of consent. But if they were working before and they choose to keep working with you after you've given them this notification, then I think then that's fine, because obviously they're complying with your policy. If your policy is that everyone has to have a DBS check, which is mandatory for the TTA members, then you're simply enforcing your policy.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thanks, John.
Yeah. So if they're working with you and they agree to continue working with you, and they do that by just continuing to work, then it's fine. Then that's deemed consent. I don't think obviously the best case scenario is they all sign a piece of paper or they all digitally sign something. It would be absolutely fine if they simply give the consent in an email and say, here's my details, I'm happy for you to use them. Or if you were to say, please provide your details if you consent for us to import you into the tutor check system, and you can give them some information about what it is and send them the link, then obviously that would be fine as well. If they then send you their details, I think you can fairly say that they've agreed and consented to you doing that, because you've told them the purpose for which you want them to send that information.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Okay. If you've got someone that you've not worked with for a while and they haven't expressly consented one way or the other and they're not working currently, no, Don't do that. Go and talk to them, and hold back their information until you manage to speak to them. Okay. Any other questions in terms of how that works? No. So we've got as we've said, we've got the dashboard where we can see how many tutors we have, how many invitations we've got pending, how many tutors we've previously been linked with where the link has been terminated, and that will be whether the link has been terminated by the individual tutor or by the corporate. We can then go and see all of our linked tutors, the ones that have actually registered for the system after we've invited them. And we can also see the invitations, people that we've got the consent to check their DBS. We've invited them, but they haven't actually logged in themselves, but we can still see their TTA DBS status. And then we've got the previously linked tutors, any tutors that were linked with our corporate before, but are no longer linked. It obviously won't show any of their updates, their DBS status, but it will show that they were here, that they were once linked. And then here we have the DBS status changes for your own account. And again, this happens twice a day, so it's going to be a long, long list. And that's how the system works. Have we got any queries about that from a corporate perspective? Or if you're an individual tutor, have you got queries about what the corporates can and can't do? No, looks like everyone found it quite straightforward. There's Shani has got a question and Liz has got a question. It says Liz was first. Liz, do you want to ask a question for me, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, there's no way of doing any checks of tutors who want to tutor from abroad, is there? I think the answer is no, but I just wanted to double check.
Currently, we don't have that functionality in here. We are looking at how we can add a feature in to enable checks of people that are based abroad and therefore have a different kind of criminal record check. But obviously, it won't be linked to the DBS update service because that's only specific to the DBS system and the UK. In fact, only for England and Wales. Northern Ireland and Scotland have their own different systems, and it doesn't currently check any system for PVG in Scotland or for, I can't remember the one for Northern Ireland, but it has a different name. And so, yeah, we're currently looking at expanding it so that it will account for those different systems. But again, they don't have a centralized database we can query in the same way automatically. It will just be able to give us an indication of, did they have a criminal record check? When was that criminal record check? Is it more or less than a year old, which is our requirement.
Thank you.
Shani.
Oh yeah, sorry, John, that I was late. How do I access this dashboard?
So this is for corporates. So you'll go to tutorcheck.co.uk. And so let me share the link with you again in the chat. I think I've shared it with everybody already at the start. So we go to tutorcheck.co.uk, which will take us to here. That will take you to this public-facing page where we can look up any member and their current DBS status as per the system. Okay, if you then want to log in yourself, you go here. If you've not yet logged into the TutorCheck system before, you're going to click sign up for an account. Okay, if you sign up for an account, you put your name in for display purposes. This is what's going to be displayed to all of the other users in the system. And then you put your email address. And remember, for everyone, we spoke to you about this previously. This will be the email address ideally that you've used for Wild Apricot. So our membership software, because if you use the same email as you've used for Wild Apricot, it will pull across all your membership information automatically, including DBS information if you've already put it into the system in Wild Apricot. You then set yourself a password. Obviously, you set a secure password for yourself, and you choose whether you want to opt out of communications. Very straightforward. And then you can click create account. Okay. Once you've done that, you can then log in. And then this is where, if you put in your email address, okay, and this will take me to my demo corporate. Okay, the demo corporate here will then show me on the side all of the corporates I'm linked to as an administrator, so I can be linked to more than one if I want, if you own more than one tuition business. Okay, as well as a list of all your tutors. So there'll be corporate administrators, which are people that have the right to administer your corporate, as well as all the tutors, and then all the people that are pending invitations. These are people you've invited, but have not yet accepted or signed into the system themselves. Okay.
That's great. Thank you, John.
Okay, from individual tutors perspective, okay, then we can go to this page where it shows which corporates you're connected to, okay, and previously linked corporates you've worked for in the past and when you've terminated the link. So in that case, I terminated the link for this demo corporate earlier on the call. It also gives you your DBS status change history. So obviously it shows you all of the different dates when the DBS was queried against the central database and what the outcome was. I can see the link corporates that I've got here and terminate the link if I don't want to work for them anymore. I can also see the corporates I was working for in the past. If you need to update your information as an individual tutor, then you go to your tutor profile and then you can update your information down here. Okay. So as an individual tutor, you'll see this page. Okay. If you're a corporate, you'll see the page I showed you a moment ago, which gives you a few more options, including to invite tutors. Matthew.
Hi, John. Yeah, I've been playing around in the background whilst you've been talking and stuff and registered with Tutor Check, but I'm coming up as current DBS unknown, no data, insufficient data available.
That's because when you first sign up, it will run the check twice a day, and it's not yet got to one of those points when it's going to run that check.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say on my TTA profile, it's still showing that I've got no references, but my referees are telling me that they've done them. I'm confused.
I will follow up with Julius on that. That's a separate system, and that works in a separate way. It may be that we've got information from the referees and just not been able to process it yet, or it may be that we're waiting for information from the referees, or there's something missing, and we'll look into that for you and get back to you.
I have pinged you an email. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. No problem. We'll look into that one. John. You're muted, John.
Sorry about that. I have a similar problem where you're not showing one of my references, and I know it's been sent.
No problem. For references, that's separate to the Tutor Check system. They don't get stored in the Tutor Check system, only in Wild Apricot. We'll follow up with Julius and make sure we can check that reference has been received and get back to you. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Any other questions with how the Tutor Check system works, either for individual tutors or for corporates? Victoria.
I have a very quick question. If from a corporate side, if there is an individual tutor who hasn't put their DBS on the update service, would that flag it at the daily check when it gets to 12 months?
Yes, it will. And if I show you very briefly what will happen. So the DBS status changes are as follows. So we've got these possible options. So we've got blank, no new info, which is green because obviously it's blank and it's on the update service. Let me zoom in here a bit for you. Okay. We've got non-blank, but there's no new info. So obviously you still need to check what it was on it. But if it's like a speeding fine or something, and then obviously it wouldn't be relevant for the purposes of tuition. So then it just shows once you've checked that, then you know what was on the original DBS, it's still current and it's on the update service. Then you've got the other option, which is that the DBS is no longer current. There is new information, and this one, but it's on the update service, so you know you need to now check. You've also got the option of the DBS being under 1 year old or over 1 year old, and therefore it's not on the update service. But if it's less than a year old, it still complies with our standard. There are some people that only intend to tutor for a short period of time, and therefore they don't choose to join the update service, although they miss the deadline. And rather than forcing them to get a DBS within a month, we allow them to have up to a year of using that DBS before they then need to renew it and get a new one. And then it's got the options of DBS being over 1 year old, being barred from TTA membership because there's something on their DBS that is inappropriate, requiring further investigation, or unknown and no data. So anything here which is green is obviously good and therefore no problem. Anything which is red is a serious problem. You shouldn't use that tutor until you've addressed the issue. Anything which is orange is there may be an issue, but you need to look into it. They may be fine.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. John.
Just once again, I'm an ESL tutor. I don't work with kids. Well, strictly speaking, I have one. Everybody else is over the age of 18. They're not in this country. I have a DBS certificate, have had for a number of years. Do I theoretically need it?
If you work with any children under the age of 18, or you work with any vulnerable adults who are over the age of 18 but have a vulnerability, so for example, a learning disability, then we would require you as TTA to have a DBS certificate, and you're eligible by law to get an enhanced DBS check for that in those kid situations. If you only teach people who are over the age of 18 and you're not eligible to get a DBS certificate, so we can't ask you to have one, and that's the only exemption that we have. So if you don't work with anyone under the age of 18 or who counts as a vulnerable adult, you're not actually eligible to get an enhanced DBS check, and so that's the exemption we have.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, quick show of hands with the hand button at the bottom, please. Does this seem intuitive enough and easy enough to use? Click the hand. It's quite a few hands. Okay, perfect. So we'd just like to reiterate, we think this is a really useful benefit for TTA members. So it's a really good benefit for individual tutors because it allows you to safely and centrally store your DBS information. It gets checked every day. You can share it with any of the corporates you want to work with. And that way it's a standard way of making sure that you've complied with all the code of practice. Hopefully you agree it really clearly communicates what that expectation is from our side. And also it really clearly communicates that with the general public, who can then log in and just check that people will comply with our standard and see what our standard is. For corporates, hopefully you'll agree it's a sensible and time and cost-effective way of you checking all of your tutors and maintaining that check on an ongoing basis. So it checks it twice every day, and it's then allows you to have that peace of mind that all of your tutors have got that check. You do get an email update if the status changes. So you'll get an email update if we run a check on all of those individuals and any of those tutors, their status changes. So for example, their DBS is now older than a year old, or if, for example, there was new information added to a DBS that was on the update service. And obviously doing that manually every day would be quite an involved and arduous process, and obviously a bit unrealistic. So we hope that helps for everyone, and that you will find it a useful new benefit. So on that basis, unless anyone's got any further questions, we're going to finish here. Thanks so much for joining us for our Spotlight series. It wasn't too long today. Hopefully it was all very straightforward. And if you have any further questions, please get back to us at info@thetutorsassociation.org.uk, and I'll just put that in the chat as well. info@thetutorsassociation.org.uk. And for those of you who had queries about references or membership, then we're going to look into those, and myself or Julius will get back to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to seeing you at the new event soon.